So, welcome to this Nemesis battle report between Farstriders 2.0 using the Tooth and Claw and the Dread Pageant using the Paths of a Prophecy. In this first round, the Champions of Sigmar takes the initiative with Elias Swiftblade charging headlong into the elusive Glisette, who evades him with her intoxicating perfume and skillful glaive dance. In my first activation, Glisette, the best a man can get, bravely charges the enemy leader, landing 2 crits. This lady is on fire. After that attack, however, Farstrider counters with a reactionary attack from Retribution, firing his bolt pistol, shall we say, and hitting home, thus leaving her vulnerable and staggered. This also leads to Farstriders scoring Toydwid, which is scored after a friendly fighter's attack action if one or more enemy fighters are vulnerable. It doesn't necessarily need to be the one you just injured. We can't have that, and I reckon I can use Glisette a bit more as bait before her night shift ends, and I do heal her up with Sucker Uncertainty. In Farstrider's second activation, Eagle Eye is lured by Glisette as well, and tries to shoot her point blank after seeing Swiftblade, whiffing badly and Farstrider struggling with putting her down. He lands on the Blade Mistress, but after the previous healing, she is still hanging in there. In my second activation, Slakelash to the rescue. We need more wound counters on the table. The mutated cowman charges Elias Swiftblade and rips a huge tear in the gleaming Sigmarite armor, and after making use of his ability to tap into the pain, the warband inspires as 6 wound counters are spread amongst surviving fighters. 1 on himself, 2 on Swiftblade, 1 on Glisette, and 2 on Farstrider. Early inspire for the pain lovers from Diachasm. Sanson has had it with Glisette's annoying dancing scarves and charges in with his shock hand axe. And finally, the Hedonite is put out of her misery, but not before making a final attempt to gift a little more pain onto the world with her deadly embrace. Sadly though, she's all tapped out and her attempts comes to nothing. After the activation, Sanson inspires from making attacks with 2 different attack profiles in the same round. The Star Falcon has now been roused from its slumber. Not only is he made more defensive with his extra defense die, but he now also counts single supports as successes in defenses at all times. In my third activation, I urge Vasilek onto the objective, and after stepping on some garish Lego and taking a damage with Cruel Pangs, I score Devoted Offerings for playing my third ploy in the round. Farstrider notices the enemy leader advancing, and with his 4-hex Star Falcon he commands the bird forwards to peck out the eyes of Vasilek, landing a blinding critical for 2 damage plus stagger. Ouch. But also, pain. The least prominent member of the Hedonites, Hadsu, charges onto the objective and tried to pull the enemy leader towards Slakelash with his Bow of Desire. Sadly, the inspired and defensively buffed Farstrider dodges the arrow with ease, laughing in the face of danger. The vulnerable Vasilak is given protection by the Unseen as he is standing on objective number 4. In the end phase, Farstriders gets an easy glory with move or die, an absolute auto score for any elite warband of course. Lucky for me though, Sanson Farstrider didn't bother, or remember, pushing me off the objective, so I do score excess of indolency for holding 2 objectives in the end phase. I put Stubborn Stance on Slakelash, which is a double-edged sword really, as I can't push myself either, but at this point I reckon it will do me more good than harm. Then the second round rolls around and Matthias takes the initiative yet again. In Farstrider's first activation, Elias swipes Hadsu with his trusty Storm Saber. and lands a brutal killing blow on the Hedonite. Things quickly go from bad to worse for me though, as he reacts to the successful range 1 attack with merciless assault, targeting my vulnerable leader. Although defensively buffed, Vasilak the Gifted perishes from the Sigmarite champion's Bolt Storm pistol, which also inspires him and scores Farstriders the Judgment of Sigmar for taking an enemy out of action with a range 3+ attack action. Bad news for me indeed. Now it's all down to Slake Slash. The blood-crazed Slangor charges right into the thick of battle and goes for the throat of Farstrider himself. Only one success on 4 dice though. And the inspired Stormcast leader brushes the blow off with ease once again. Lucky for me though, there was a passive glory in it for me, with Endless Revel for having a move and or charge on all surviving fighters after an activation. In the power step I salvage Enervating Perfume, as it is bound to Vasilak. In Matthias' second activation, Farstrider simply moves into enemy territory. He was probably cautious of me pushing him out of there, so he wanted to save a potential second move with him rather than charging. After his activation, there's more passive glory in it for me, with Held in a Bloody Fist for holding an objective with a wounding fighter after an opponent's activation. Eagle Eye is given Swift Stride and thus gets his move cranked up all the way to 5. Slake Slash is made a little more lethal with Guided by Fate, granting him +1 dice on attack actions made on or towards a feature token. Really solid card, bringing him up to 5 dice. In my second activation, Slake Slash tries yet again to revenge his fallen mortals with his Lethal Flurry. Yet again though, only one success. This one hits home though, and in the process I heal myself as well. Slake Slash is actually picking up pace here. Now all Stormcasts are savage, with 2 wounds each. Farstrider's third activation sees yet another cautious move with the Swift Striding Eagle Eye. Slake Slash is then given more Dark Gifts with Inviolate Prophet. -1 from attack actions that are not made adjacent, while Slake Slash is on an objective token. In my third activation I discard Positive Foreboding, fishing for something more scoreable. In Matthias' last activation he draws a power card and then plays Ranger's Advance, pushing 2 of his fighters. In my last activation I draw a power card and then play Watchful Eye, which means I can manipulate the value of the objective the fighter with this upgrade holds before scoring. At the end of the phase though it goes back to its original value, and before scoring I do indeed lower it from 4 to 3. In the end phase, Matthias scores Lightning Advance for having at least 2 surviving fighters, and each of those being in enemy territory. He also scores Prime Objective for holding the objective with the highest value in enemy territory, with Eagle Eye holding 5. Last but not least, he also scores Focal Point for his leader being in enemy territory and within 2 hexes of 2 fighters from 2 or more warbands. Over to me, I score a Sign from the Gods for holding objective number 3, thanks to me manipulating the value earlier. I also score God Seekers for all of my surviving fighters being in enemy territory, which is obviously dirt easy now, and I do score Scintillating Sadism for all enemy fighters being wounded. That's a solid 2 glory. Quite the haul for being down to 1 fighter, with 5 glory there for me in the end phase. This really goes to show that even if you seem to be losing a game of Warhammer Underworlds, you can still make a fighting stance with 1 or even 0 fighters if your draw sequence is favorable, your build is decent, or if you have a bit of a luck, I guess. Slake Slash is given Swift as Desire, taking him up to a crazy 7 move, Supercharged Mutant Emo Cow. Round 3 and Matthias Roloffs continues to be on top tonight. He starts with ordering forth his Star Falcon, not daring to engage the mutant cow in melee, and probably a wise choice given that they are all down to 2 wounds. Because of my Inviolate Prophet though, it's only 2 dice and he indeed fails to wound me here. I then play Lure of Slanesh, ushering his leader to the killing block. And there is 2 crits. Slake Slash is really starting to shine now. He is pretty close to defending it though, but the lethal flurry digs deep into the chest of Sanson, and he is off to the reforging. Tell Sigmar I said hi. Matthias then plays Ceaseless Volley on Swiftblade, buffing his 3+ attack actions in the next activation and pushing him one step closer to Slake Slash. So that then offsets the -1 dice he has from my upgrade, which means he's back on 3 dice. This one lands, however, taking Slake Slash down to 4 wounds left. A couple of charges from the storm costs could still bring the Mad Cow down. More passive glory for me though, with all part of the plan being scored for me holding objectives to a higher combined value than the number of surviving fighters. Since it's now back to being objective number 4, this condition is fulfilled. Slake Slash then becomes fueled by sensation and has healed back up. And I then play Thread the Path to make a free move, with the move characteristic being set to the number of objectives I hold. Luckily, I only need 1 hex though, since he maybe a bit carelessly pushed himself closer with ceaseless volleys. I am now back on 4 dice though, since I'm not on the objective anymore and neither is my target. The crit still strikes true though, and yet another soul is harvested in the name of the Dark Prince. Elmeric then charges onto the objective, and since I'm not on the objective, this is yet again 3 dice. And he lands an undefendable attack with 2 hits and a crit. He also scores Embraced Savagery for being savage with all surviving fighters, which he totally could have scored earlier since he had 2 wound counters on that fighter. In my 3rd activation, I'm quite happy with just drawing a power card. He then shoots again with Eagle Eye. Since all of his surviving fighters have a charge token, he can activate again as long as he doesn't move or does super actions. The ranged 3 attack rerolls into 2 crits with the stagger from the previous attack, and that's another wound on Slake Slash, which also scores him Veteran Marksman for landing a crit with a ranged 3+ attack action. In my last activation, I simply move onto the objective. In the case of a draw, I don't want to lose for holding less. In the end phase though, no glory is scored from neither of us, so it's a narrow win for the Dread Pageant. Definitely didn't expect winning when Hudsu and my leader dropped within the confines of a single activation step, but there you go. So why did I win? Well, it's obviously a good portion of randomness and luck involved, but I really like making the most out of fighters that I would call gatekeepers, I guess. It may be Glisset, it may be Bahanar, it may be the Octopus for Serenis, or the Lurking Skaven for Scritch. Defensively strong but not crucial fighters that act as a magnet, I would say, to waste the opponent's activations, while you focus on going around and doing more useful stuff in the background. Here it was Glisset, and she really fits the mold. She's not a hugely important damage dealer, but with 2 dodge on guard, she can really be super annoying if you use her as bait. With a bit of luck, she can even deal some damage before she inevitably bites the dust. I also had a bit of luck and perhaps a bit of planning and inspiring early on, which is crucial obviously for the Slangor especially, because inevitably with 4 or 5 dice the crits will be hard to stop, which was evident here, as he was without the shadow of a doubt my MVP. So yeah, that's it for today. I'ma let the end credits roll now, so take care and I'll catch you the next time. This is Mats again, chiming in to thank you for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and to not miss out on future content, ring the bell as well. And if you really liked this video, feel free to click the thanks button just below this video. And if you want to support me even further, you can now become a channel member and claim the title of Critical Focus Fan. Until next time, take care, bye.